a WikiVidi documentaries production. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Enjoy. Google Chrome. Google Chrome is a freeware web browser developed by Google LLC. It was first released on September 2, 2008 for Microsoft Windows, and was later ported to Linux, macOS, iOS and Android. Google Chrome is also the main component of Chrome OS, where it serves as a platform for running web apps. Google releases the majority of Chrome source code as the Chromium open source project. However, Chrome itself is proprietary software. One component that is not open source is the built-in Adobe Flash Player. Chrome used the WebKit layout engine until version 27. As of version 28, all Chrome ports except the iOS port use Blink, a fork of the WebKit engine. StatCounter estimates that Google Chrome has a 66% worldwide usage share of web browsers as a desktop browser. It also has 56% market share across all platforms combined, because it has over 50% share on smartphones. And thus Chrome is the most used browser in virtually all countries. Its success has led to Google expanding the Chrome brand name on various other products such as Chrome OS, Chromecast, Chromebook, Chromebit, Chromebox, and Chromebase. History. Google CEO Eric Schmidt opposed the development of an independent web browser for 6 years. He stated that, at the time, Google was a small company, and he did not want to go through bruising browser wars. After co-founders Sergey Brin and Larry Page hired several Mozilla Firefox developers and built a demonstration of Chrome, Schmidt admitted that, "It was so good that it essentially forced me to change my mind." In September 2004, rumors of Google building a web browser first appeared. Online journals and US newspapers stated at the time that Google was hiring former Microsoft web developers among others. It also came shortly after the final 1.0 release of Mozilla Firefox, which was surging in popularity and taking market share from Internet Explorer, which was suffering from major security problems. Announcement. The release announcement was originally scheduled for September 3, 2008, and a comic by Scott McCloud was to be sent to journalists and bloggers explaining the features within the new browser. Copies intended for Europe were shipped early, and German blogger Philipp Liensen of Google Blogoscope made a scanned copy of the 38-page comic available on his website after receiving it on September 1, 2008. Google subsequently made the comic available on Google Books and mentioned it on their official blog along with an explanation for the early release. The product was allegedly named Chrome because Google wanted to minimize the Chrome of the browser. Though this meaning was added somewhat post hoc, the codename before release apparently chosen from a connotation of speed. Public release. The browser was first publicly released on September 2, 2008 for Windows XP and later, with 43 supported languages, officially a beta version, and as a stable public release on December 11, 2008. On the same day, a CNET news item drew attention to a passage in the Terms of Service statement for the initial beta release, which seemed to grant to Google a license to all content transferred via the Chrome browser. This passage was inherited from the general Google Terms of Service. Google responded to this criticism immediately by stating that the language used was borrowed from other products, and removed this passage from the Terms of Service. Chrome quickly gained about 1% usage share. After the initial surge, usage share dropped until it hit a low of 0.69% in October 2008. It then started rising again, and by December 2008, Chrome again passed the 1% threshold. In early January 2009, CNET reported that Google planned to release versions of Chrome for OS X and Linux in the first half of the year. The first official Chrome OS X and Linux developer previews were announced on June 4, 2009, with a blog post saying they were missing many features and were intended for early feedback rather than general use. In December 2009, Google released beta versions of Chrome for OS X and Linux. Google Chrome 5.0, announced on May 25, 2010, was the first stable release to support all three platforms. Chrome was one of the 12 browsers offered to European Economic Area users of Microsoft Windows in 2010. Development. Chrome was assembled from 25 different code libraries from Google and third parties such as Mozilla's Netscape Portable Runtime, Network Security Services, NPAPI, Skia Graphics Engine, SQLite, and a number of other open-source projects. The V8 JavaScript virtual machine was considered a sufficiently important project to be split off and handled by a separate team in Denmark coordinated by Lars Backadorhus. According to Google, existing implementations were designed for small programs, where the performance and interactivity of the system weren't that important. But web applications such as Gmail are using the web browser to the fullest when it comes to DOM manipulations and JavaScript, and therefore would significantly benefit from a JavaScript engine that could work faster. Chro initially used the WebKit rendering engine to display web pages. In 2013, they forked the web core component to create their own layout engine Blink. Based on WebKit, Blink only uses WebKit's web core components, while substituting other components, such as its own multiprocess architecture, in place of WebKit's native implementation. Chrome is internally tested with unit testing, automated user interface testing of scripted user actions, fuzz testing, as well as WebKit's layout tests, and against commonly accessed websites inside the Google index within 20-30 minutes. Google created Gears for Chrome, which added features for web developers typically relating to the building of web applications, including offline support. Google phased out Gears as the same functionality became available in the HTML5 standards. On January 11, 2011, the Chrome product manager, Mike Jazayeri, announced that Chrome would remove H.264 video codec support for its HTML5 player, citing the desire to bring Google Chrome more in line with the currently available open codecs available in the Chromium project, which Chrome is based on. Despite this, on November 6, 2012, Google released a version of Chrome on Windows which added hardware-accelerated H.264 video decoding. In October 2013, Cisco announced that it was open-sourcing its H.264 codecs and will cover all fees required. On February 7, 2012, Google launched Google Chrome Beta for Android 4.0 devices, on many new devices with Android 4.1, and later pre-installed Chrome as the default browser. In May 2017, Google announced a version of Chrome for augmented reality and virtual reality devices. Features: Google Chrome features a minimalistic user interface, with its user interface principles later being implemented into other browsers. For example, the merging of the address bar and search bar into the Omnibox. Chrome also has a reputation for strong browser performance. Bookmarks and settings synchronization. Chrome allows users to synchronize their bookmarks, history, and settings across all devices with the browser installed by sending and receiving data through a chosen Google account, which in turn updates all signed-in instances of Chrome. This can be authenticated either through Google credentials or a sync passphrase. Web standards support. The first release of Google Chrome passed both the ACID 1 and ACID 2 tests. Beginning with version 4.0, Chrome has passed all aspects of the ACID 3 test. As of May 2011, Chrome has very good support for JavaScript/ECMAScript according to ECMA International's ECMAScript Standards Conformance Test 262. This test reports as the final score the number of tests a browser failed, hence lower scores are better. In this test, Chrome version 37 scored 10 failed/11578 passed. For comparison, Firefox 19 scored 193 failed/11752 passed and Internet Explorer 9 has a score of 600 failed, while Internet Explorer 10 has a score of 7 failed. In 2011, on the official CSS 2.1 test suite by standardization organization W3C, WebKit, the Chrome rendering engine, passes 89.75% CSS 2.1 tests. On the HTML5 Web Standards test, Chrome 41 scores 518 out of 555 points, placing it ahead of the 5 most popular desktop browsers. Chrome 41 on Android scores 510 out of 555 points. Chrome 44 scores 526. only 29 points less than the maximum score. Security. Chrome periodically retrieves updates of two blacklists and warns users when they attempt to visit a site flagged as potentially harmful. This service is also made available for use by others via a free public API called Google Safe Browsing API. Chrome uses a process allocation model to sandbox tabs. Using the principle of least privilege, each tab process cannot interact with critical memory functions or other tab processes, similar to Microsoft's protected mode, used by Internet Explorer 9 or greater. The sandbox team is said to have taken this existing process boundary and made it into a jail. This enforces a computer security model whereby there are two levels of multi-level security, and the sandbox can only respond to communication requests initiated by the user. On Linux, sandboxing uses the SysComp mode. Since 2008, Chrome has been faulted for not including a master password to prevent casual access to a user's passwords. Chrome developers have indicated that a master password does not provide real security against determined hackers, and have refused to implement one. Bugs filed on this issue have been marked "won't fix." The Windows version asks the user to enter the Windows account password before showing saved passwords. In January 2015, Torrent Freak reported that using Chrome when connected to the Internet using a VPN can be a serious security issue due to the browser's support for WebRTC. On September 12, 2016, it was reported that starting with Chrome 56, users will be warned when they visit non-secure HTTP websites to encourage more sites to make the transition to HTTPS. Security vulnerabilities. No security vulnerabilities in Chrome were exploited in the 3 years of PWN 2.0 from 2009-2011. At PWN 2.0 2012, Chrome was defeated by a French team who used zero-day exploits in the version of Flash shipped with Chrome to take complete control of a fully patched 64-bit Windows 7 PC using a booby-trapped website that overcame Chrome's sandboxing. Chrome was compromised twice at the 2012 Chromium. Google's official response to the exploits was delivered by Jason Kersey, who congratulated the researchers, noting, "We also believe that both submissions are works of art and deserve wider sharing and recognition." Fixes for these vulnerabilities were deployed within 10 hours of the submission. A significant number of security vulnerabilities in Chrome occur in the Adobe Flash Player. For example, the 2016 PWN 2.0 successful attack on Chrome relied on 4 security vulnerabilities. 2 of the vulnerabilities were in Flash, 1 was in Chrome, and 1 was in the Windows kernel. In 2016, Google announced that it was planning to phase out Flash Player in Chrome, starting in version 53. The first phase of the plan is to disable Flash for ads and background analytics, with the ultimate goal of disabling it completely by the end of the year, except on specific sites that Google has deemed to be broken without it. Flash would then be re-enabled with the exclusion of ads and background analytics on a site-by-site basis. Leaked documents published by WikiLeaks, codenamed Vault 7 and dated from 2013-2016, detail the capabilities of the CIA, such as the ability to compromise web browsers, malware blocking and ad blocking. Google introduced download scanning protection in Chrome 17. In February 2018, Google introduced an ad blocking feature based on recommendations from the Interactive Advertising Bureau. Sites that employ invasive ads are given a 30-day warning, after which their ads will be blocked. Consumer Reports recommended users install dedicated ad blocking tools instead, which offer increased security against malware and tracking. Incognito mode. The private browsing feature called Incognito mode prevents the browser from permanently storing any history information, cookies, site data, or form inputs. Downloaded files and bookmarks will be stored. In addition, user activity is not hidden from visited websites or the Internet Service Provider. Incognito mode is similar to the private browsing feature in other web browsers. It doesn't prevent saving in all windows. You can switch between an incognito window and any regular windows you have open. You'll only be in incognito mode when you're using the incognito window. User tracking concerns. Chrome sends details about its users and their activities to Google through both optional and non-optional user tracking mechanisms. Some of the tracking mechanisms can be optionally enabled and disabled through the installation interface and through the browser's options dialog. Unofficial builds, such as SRWare, seek to remove these features from the browser altogether. The RLZ feature is not included in the Chromium browser either. In March 2010, Google devised a new method to collect installation statistics. The unique ID token included with Chrome is now only used for the first connection that Google Update makes to its server. The optional suggestion service included in Google Chrome has been criticized because it provides the information typed into the Omnibox to the search provider before the user even hits return. This allows the search engine to provide URL suggestions, but also provides them with web usage information tied to an IP address. The optional feature to use a web service to help resolve spelling errors has privacy implications. Do not track. In February 2012, Google announced that Chrome would implement the Do Not Track standard to inform websites the users desire to be not tracked. The protocol was implemented in version 23. In line with the WikiVidi draft standard for NT, it is turned off by default in Chrome. Speed. The JavaScript virtual machine used by Chrome, the V8 JavaScript engine, has features such as dynamic code generation, hidden class transitions, and precise garbage collection. In 2008, several websites performed benchmark tests using the SunSpider JavaScript benchmark tool as well as Google's own set of computationally intense benchmarks, which include ray tracing and constraint solving. They unanimously reported that Chrome performed much faster than all competitors against which it had been tested, including Safari, Firefox 3.0, Internet Explorer 7, Opera, and Internet Explorer 8. However, on October 11, 2010, independent tests of JavaScript performance, Chrome has been scoring just behind Opera's Presto engine since it was updated in version 10.5. On September 3, 2008, Mozilla responded by stating that their own TraceMonkey JavaScript engine was faster than Chrome's V8 engine in some tests. John Resig, Mozilla's JavaScript evangelist, further commented on the performance of different browsers on Google's own suite, commenting on Chrome's decimating of the other browsers, but he questioned whether Google's suite was representative of real programs. He stated that Firefox 3.0 performed poorly on recursion-intensive benchmarks, such as those of Google, because the Mozilla team had not implemented recursion tracing yet. 2 weeks after Chrome's launch in 2008, the WebKit team announced a new JavaScript engine, Squirrelfish Extreme, citing a 36% speed improvement over Chrome's V8 engine. Like most major web browsers, Chrome uses DNS prefetching to speed up website lookups, as do other browsers like Firefox, Safari, Internet Explorer, and in Opera as a user script. Chrome formerly used their now deprecated SPDY protocol instead of only HTTP when communicating with servers that support it, such as Google Services, Facebook, Twitter. SPDY support was removed in Chrome version 51. Brought to you by WikiVidi documentaries. Would you like to know more?